This documentary shows images of extreme weather and devastation that may be troubling to some viewers. It also features testimonials from persons who played a significant role in Hurricane Ivan who are no longer with us. This is the retelling of Hurricane Ivan through the eyes of some of our leaders and community that survived it and rebuilt the country from the ground up.
It was an experience that no one in Cayman had ever had before. And so our abilities to imagine and project what may have happened just had never been put to the, to that level of estimation. We just didn't have the background to be able to do it. I recall Kirkland Nixon, the chief fire officer at the time and the coordinator for the National Hurricane Committee. He and I headed out, I guess 8, 9 o'clock on the Monday morning and wandered through Industrial Park, heading in the direction of CUC. Hopped into Public Works. I stole a dump truck because I needed a vehicle. Fortunately, someone had left a truck with keys in it, so we were able to take that.
No casualties were reported from Hurricane Ivan, which remains one of the most baffling facts about the storm. When the devastation was assessed, this could only be seen as divine intervention. Though the task of rebuilding stood daunting before the Cayman Islands, the society rallied together to restore what was. In the midst of a humbling time, humanity shone bright as persons from all walks of life bonded over their common reality. It did not matter if you were a blue-collar or white-collar worker, an expatriate or a native, a man or a woman. Hurricane Ivan unified the country in a way that no national event could. There was also an outpouring of love and support from our regional neighbors and from international organizations, from churches to Red Cross agencies who rallied on behalf of the Cayman Islands. We received aid supplies, funding, and even support from relief workers who came on island to help us rebuild.
Thank God we've heard no deaths. There was one missing man. My job now is to try to get the Central Command where the governor is to let's see what we got to do because we know the country. Well, as I got into Governor's Sound, I could get through one of the dikes. I couldn't get through West Bay Road. We had to start to go through the dikes. That's how, it took me like 2.5 hours, 3 hours to get to Georgetown to Central Command. I finally got to the governor. I said, Governor, we got to get this work done. Within the week, we had got Georgetown back up and running. The big concern there was the business community, which had, some of the business had gone out with workers, that we weren't going to get that back. And so the big thing is let's get Georgetown up and running, get electricity to them first, let's get going.
We were without power for about 23 hours, and we had a gentleman at that time on the ventilator. So we had to manually ventilate this person using an ambu bag, which is a bag that looks like a softball that you squeeze. And everybody, housekeepers, porters, physicians, nurses, physio, anyone who was in the hospital, administrators, anyone who was available to squeeze that bag helped to keep that gentleman ventilated for those 23 hours. It was that spirit of camaraderie, that spirit of community, that spirit of helping one another, supporting one another, not going to die because we didn't have enough hands to squeeze this bag.
An entity that provided support to the Cayman Islands would be the International Federation of the Red Cross, which is part of who we are. So right after the storm, the first thing they asked us to do was do a rapid assessment. So we went out there with our volunteers to find out what was going on, because we didn't have cell phones as we had it now. So there were lots of rumors going on. We wanted to make sure. So we did a rapid assessment. And then after that, we sent a message to the International Federation of the Red Cross. Their headquarters is in Panama, and they have a regional office in Trinidad, and of course the British Red Cross as well. So we're speaking to everybody. And within a week, they said, okay, we're sending a 737 with disaster supplies. So we quickly called the Department of Children and Family Services at that time. That was Mrs. Lucloy, and she got her team, and we sat down in my office where there was still remains of water. We rolled up our jeans and we sat down and we said, okay, how do we put together a distribution center? And they said, well, because they have social workers, they know how to divide the different districts. And so we developed and established 12 distribution points across the island. And basically we sent our volunteers and other national volunteers to go there and distribute items.
I think the most memorable experiences came around people. First that comes to mind is one of our line supervisors, Jerry Holness, who is due to retire this year actually, but we delayed his retirement plans because he went over to Jamaica to help with the recent Hurricane Beryl restoration. But Jerry was living in the Randike area, and he and his family survived the hurricane by going up on top of their kitchen cabinets, I believe, in a crawl space because they had the flooding in that area. And he was the first person I saw from the outside. I stayed at the Hurricane Center at CUC, and he walked the distance from Randike to North Sound Road, and he came in. He requested a truck to go and get his family. He brought his family into the Hurricane Center, made sure they were safe, and then he and I started the first patrols out to the Georgetown area to plan for the restoration of the critical services in the corporate area.
I think it was one of the few times in Cayman where so many people of all walks of life felt almost as one.
And that's the type of camaraderie that comes out when we get storms. So yes, storms are bad. We don't like them. I don't want them. But it does bring out the good in many for people during those hard times.
There's some beautiful stories after Ivan of people really helping each other, from giving each other that precious bottle of water to lending someone a house or a car or whatever that might be. And there was a really lovely atmosphere after Ivan, even despite the circumstances, about how Cayman Kind really came together, and we all worked together to help each other, and again, so many lessons.
It has been 2 decades since Hurricane Ivan, and an entire generation of Caymanians only know of this pivotal moment in our history when its events are retold. Our present infrastructure includes a dedicated disaster and emergency response agency, our own regiment, a world-renowned building code, and many other tenets of resiliency.
One of the other things with regards to the resiliency is the addition of the weather radar. The Doppler weather radar is actually something that came about because of Hurricane Ivan, but also because there's no weather radar data over the Northwest Caribbean. To understand what I'm talking about is that when you go in the world of meteorology, we look at satellite images, and satellite images can show you that there's a system that looks like a tropical storm, a hurricane way out in the Atlantic Ocean. Once it get into the islands and stuff like that, you start to get reports from weather stations and stuff like that that tells you what's going on.
Well, the first thing I would say is that we need to be fully prepared. In any kind of disaster or difficult scenario, the most important thing is to have the right systems and communications in place, and for everybody to be joined up together. So I do feel in Cayman we've come a very long way in creating that system, and great thanks to Hazard Management Cayman Islands for managing to do that.
We are much stronger than we were back then. When I look at the other overseas territories, for example, and people say, how is Cayman in such a good position? As a direct result from Ivan, we had that early storm 20 years ago compared to a lot of the others in the region. And I think as a result of that, we've managed to develop and have that political will and the funds to make sure that our preparedness is much better than it was 20 years ago.
if we're hearing of a hurricane headed our direction, let us be prepared. And I think that during the threat of Hurricane Beryl, we saw that. We saw that persons had made their personal plans. I remember going to work that afternoon, and there was no vehicles on the road. And I believe that the Cayman Islands government done an excellent job as well, warning the people well in advance. The communications was very, very, very good. And I think overall that we are better prepared now.
It's also absolutely essential that you have the decision makers clearly set out at every single level. And I'm particularly pleased that at the executive level, so at the top level, we have an executive decision-making board, which includes me and the Premier, very importantly, all members of Cabinet. So if you like, whatever support is being provided from the UK to Cayman, Cayman's destiny is in its own hands because we are making those decisions all together.
What Ivan, demonstrated for us again, having that sort of multi-tiered approach and a need to have, be able to deploy resources in a multifaceted manner. Say our inspection staff, they were all focused on one particular area. If they did plumbing, that's what they did. If they did building, that's what they did. But what Ivan demonstrated to us is the need to have that, that we needed to be able to have that multifaceted capacity, because again, we could have staff out due to personal reasons. We could not just, again, simply depend on, post-hurricane, 20 people were going to be readily available to respond. So we made sure we trained up our staff in multiple areas so that if for whatever reason, we 2 or 3 staff members were not able to answer the call and respond, we were able to provide backup to each other.
The Cayman Islands has really changed since Ivan. I think we were a bit more laid back prior to Ivan. And then we had this hurricane that devastated us in 2004. And we had 12 months to prepare for another one. So first of all, you're in the recovery stage, and then you have Christmas, and by January of 2005, we're like, oh my goodness, it's 6 more months, and we have hurricane season again. So it was like, what do we do? So there was a lot of, I think there was a lot of things that each organization put in place, a lot of policies and processes, and we're definitely in a better position than we were as an island. A lot of work has come into it, yeah.
Since Hurricane Ivan, the Cayman Islands have been granted continual grace until the recording of this documentary by God against major devastation or direct impact from severe weather. This seeming success is equally a blessing and an area of concern, as the potential for people to grow indifferent to the threat of storms is a threat unto itself. Mitigating that threat requires intentionality by the government to maintain its focus on resiliency and build a culture of readiness.
It's not when, it's if. And so we try to be as prepared as ever. And I think the last storm that we had, I think was Beryl, that showed us that we were as prepared as we were, and that we still serve an awesome God. God saw it fit in his infinite mercies to dip it a bit further, send it up, and Cayman came pretty much unscathed. That's not going to happen all the time. Be ready as if this season could be the worst one. If it doesn't come, be thankful and celebrate. Out of many, we warn people that it could be projected and forecasted to come to Grand Cayman, the last minute, especially those late season storms. So we've learned that we talk to people on the ground, that we keep the Doppler radar up, and that was one of the main skeleton anchors that we have, the Doppler radar. We then had a better communication link that we could feed into the National Hurricane Center. And then of course we grew the hazard management, which was just a small little thing we've done in Kearney, and they worked very well, but we learned from Ivan that we had to be more organized, we had to properly fund it, we had to get legislative framework to be the backbone and the rudimentary foundation for it. And we also needed not to operate in silos, but out of many, again, one people. And I think that we have done excellent in the forecasting, we've done excellent in the preparation. We still have a way to go with the recovery, but we have come a long, long way, and I'm very satisfied with the progress that we've made.
One of the areas, within the department is we updated the building code in 2016. So we went from the previous 1999 standard building code, so we moved into the international family of codes, and we are again now looking to update that to the 2021 codes. So one of the things that Ivan galvanized for us is the need to keep on top of updating the building code, so that we had a building code that was growing and responding and adapting. That'll continue to drive us to ensure that we don't get complacent, that the building code doesn't fall too far behind, and that we regularly update it.
Well, the RCIPS has, in my opinion, a very robust plan. We do exercises. We start to prepare from the beginning of the year, trying to make sure that when June 1st or that hurricane season rolls in, that we have all preparations in place. That includes all our staff accounted for and properly assigned to the various roles and responsibilities.
In terms of what the UK has to offer to support Cayman in any kind of natural disaster, first of all, we have a very well coordinated crisis centre in London, and that enables us to reach out across the whole of the British government to bring in whatever support we might need. Very importantly, as you also know, we've got a ship in the region. This is a patrol vessel. It's a reasonably decent sized vessel, which means it can support helicopters. It can put on a crane. It has stores to provide, for example, humanitarian assistance, and it also has some inflatable boats, as well as being a fairly large ship in its own right. So that is a really important resource for us, including through the expertise that comes with the crew. Furthermore, over the recent years, the UK has been providing funding to Cayman. This is funding for training. We've provided funding to support the NENS app. This is the National Emergency Notification System. I really hope everybody has downloaded that, because it's a great thing to have on your phone ready to go if anything happens. And we've also been providing some support to really concerning issues such as sea surge modelling. So it's important for us to be prepared to know if the sea is going to inundate areas of the island, which areas are the most vulnerable. So I'm really pleased that the UK has been able to support with that as well.
There's a significant population growth since 2004. There's also significant development in infrastructure, both development as apartments and housing and so forth, but also critical infrastructure, more hospitals, for example, more shelters. So we've seen a significant growth in a lot of things. Both, there's obviously weighing out. We've got more people on the island, so there's more people to protect and ensure the safety in a hurricane in the future. But again, our critical infrastructure, the robustness of our systems nowadays. We have a great national emergency notification system now, both a radio interrupt as well as an app on the phone. And those sort of early warning systems are much better than they were. A lot of the work we're doing now is much more based on evidence, so we can really see what the risk is. So those risk assessments can help us understand and make sure that our response is very much in line with what it should be.
I'm also really pleased that we've got the regiment. The regiment is a new entity. It's only been there a couple of years, but it's already really making its presence felt.
Creating the organization like the regiment means that we have an extra pool of trained and equipped individuals who can support the community emergency services and other organizations. Not just in an event of a hurricane, but any major incident. We engage in cross-training with other agencies, from the tactical to strategic. And by other agencies, that is literally fire service, prison, RCIPS, HMCI, Red Cross, so a lot of the interagency training and stuff. From a CIR perspective, the most notable thing would be awareness and foresight.
I am Leonie Tibbetts, and today I'm in the capacity of sub-lieutenant for the Cayman Islands Cadet Corps. The minute there's a storm coming, we get the call that we're activated. We show up in our uniform ready to serve our country. After the storms as well, we also take a lot of the damage assessment. So the police will go out on the roads and they will radio in the different forms of damage that has been conducted. We will start to type and input that into the system so that the different entities, whether it be fire, the regiment, or whoever, can go out into the community and actually start to work on those things. CUC, the utilities, all the different entities would be someone based on the inputs that we're putting in from the calls we're receiving.
As the focus to be able to stand up to the threat of storms remains top concern as our climate continues to change rapidly, the Cayman Islands has also evolved into a new role within the Caribbean as a regional thought leader and philanthropic supporter to fellow islands.
This month could be for Cayman, next month could be for Bermuda, and we have helped each other out, you know, and if God has so blessed us, we operate with a surplus budget. Cayman has been prosperous in tourism, financial services. We are small, but we can't be smug or arrogant about it. You know, who God bless, let no man curse. But in our blessings, we must learn to share. And I know that there always will be criticism about charities starting from home, but I look at it as a seed. If no one planted a seed, there won't be mangoes to pick off the tree. And as the more we share, the more it multiplies and come back.
Gratitude has morphed into a national practice, as at the end of each hurricane season since 2011, Caymanian families celebrate what is fondly known as Cayman Thanksgiving. It is a time to come together, reminiscent of our time after that now infamous storm, to thank God for sparing us once again. What began as a frightening storm has now become an emblem in our past of what happens when people of the Cayman Islands rally together for the good of all. We now stand stronger as an example of continual commitment to being ready for what may come, while also being perpetually thankful and kind to our neighbors. Our story of Hurricane Ivan lives in our past, but its effects give full dimensions to our present and our relentless path towards resiliency. Let us never forget.